And good morning, everybody. My name is Matt Mayhood, and welcome to the City of Morgan Hill's 2022 Manufacturing Roundtable. My name is Matt Mayhood. I am the Economic Development Director for the City of Morgan Hill, and it's my pleasure to serve as today's moderator. We are hosting today's special virtual webinar in honor of Manufacturing Week. And manufacturing is a keen industry, keen employer and economic driver here in the City of Morgan Hill and throughout the state of California. In fact, here in the City of Morgan Hill, about 20% of our employment is in the area of manufacturing. These are great companies that provide great jobs, from entry-level positions to very highly skilled technicians and highly educated engineers. These companies can significantly contribute to the vibrancy and health of our economy, both in our city and throughout the Silicon Valley region, especially since many of them serve as a critical link in the Silicon Valley manufacturing ecosystem and supply chain. In fact, in Santa Clara County alone, there are over 215,000 industrial manufacturing related jobs. California is a leading manufacturer in electronics, food and kindred products, industrial machinery, instruments, and transportation equipment. California leads the nation in medical device manufacturing and EV automobile production. Thank you very much, Tesla. Needless to say, California is a strong manufacturing economy, and that is why we are here today to talk about the industry, the challenges, the opportunities, and its future. I would be remiss if I didn't say this up front. As the City of Morgan Hill continues to expand with new available light industrial space designed specifically for R&D and advanced manufacturing, we expect to grow this segment of employment in our great community, especially with our close proximity to many other Silicon Valley product researchers, developers, and manufacturers. And if you want to learn more about our community and why it's a great place to do business, please go to our website, choosemorganhill.com. Okay. I promise that's my own one and only plug for the day. Before we get started, I'd like to thank our co-hosts of this event, the Morgan Hill Chamber of Commerce and their CEO, Nick Gage, the San Jose Chamber of Commerce and their CEO, Derek Seaver, and George Chow with Mannix Consulting, who helped inspire and develop today's program. Today, we're going to facilitate two panels with subject matter experts. Our first panel is with executives who have extensive experience and knowledge in the areas of manufacturing. All of them represent employers who are located in the City of Morgan Hill, but each of them has a presence or operation somewhere else domestically or internationally. Today's roundtable is being recorded. A copy will be sent to all attendees and uploaded to the Choose Morgan Hill website early next week. And if you have questions for our panelists, please enter them in the Q&A. Audience questions will be addressed as time permits. And I am going to take a quick scan of our attendees. Appreciate everybody being here. I do see that our mayor, Rich Constantine, has joined us, as well as council member Gino Borgioli. So thank you for being here. We do appreciate that. We always like to recognize our elected officials who are engaging in our community conversations. So without further ado, let's jump in. Let me introduce our panelists very quickly. First, I'll start with Dave Stanford. He's the Director of Manufacturing and Supply Chain at Anritsu. Dave has 25 years of experience in test and measurement business, supporting cutting-edge technology products in the wireless communications, 5G, aerospace and defense, manufacturing and R&D device and electronic product testing segments. At Anritsu, he oversees the manufacturing and procurement materials groups, bringing innovation and process improvements in a low-volume, high-mix manufacturing environment. He has a BS in Industrial Engineering from Cal Poly San Luis Obispo and Stanford Graduate School of Business Executive Institute. Welcome to you, Dave. Bob Marge-Avictus, hopefully I got that right, Bob. He is the Executive Vice President of Bike Supply Chain and Manufacturing with Specialized Bicycle Components. He leads specialized Asian operations, as well as strategic planning, product sourcing, product development, and supplier relations. For 25 years, he's been an integral to the global growth at Specialized. Previously, he was president at Service Cycle Bicycle Corporation, a leading importer of mongoose, juvenile, and adult bicycles. There, he was responsible for the reorganization of the company's product development, marketing, and sales and operations. He has a BS from LaSalle University in political science and economics, a Stanford MBA graduate, and a Wharton EDP graduate. He serves on several industry and corporate boards of directors, and he serves as a USA industry trade advisor to the Secretary of Commerce and the USA Trade Ambassador. Welcome to you, Bob. Next, Mike Wargaki, Senior Vice President of Operations Sunbasket. Did I get that right, Mike? All right. Sunbasket is a premium quality meal delivery service company. Mike has over 20 years of food manufacturing experience covering a wide range of products. He is currently responsible for all of the manufacturing within their 2 distribution centers and over 1,000 employees. Prior to joining Sunbasket, Mike was the VP of Operations for Delmonico Foods, Kettle Cuisine. He has a bachelor's degree from the University of Notre Dame in chemistry and finance. Welcome, Mike. Last, Eric Wilcox. He's the Vice President of Operations of Toray Advanced Composites, USA. Eric has had a long and distinguished career with Toray. He was previously served in the following roles: process engineering, continuous improvement implementation, plant manager for consumer adhesives, director of operations, aerospace adhesives, and his current role as Vice President of Operations. He has a bachelor's in mechanical engineering from University of Southern California. Go Trojans. Welcome to you, Eric. Appreciate all of our panelists being here. I'm excited. We had a great pre-webinar conversation. I wish we would have been recording that, actually. We wouldn't even have to have been here today. So I'm going to start. Each of you know I'm going to give you a few minutes to kind of kick off. We talked about 2 to 3 minutes of each, giving you kind of an opportunity to tell a little bit about yourself and your company and your story about your company's, what you do and your role in manufacturing. So I am going to start with Bob. You're in my upper left corner. So this is like Jeopardy. You're in the upper left corner. So feel free to start, Bob.
Great. First of all, thanks for Matt for the welcome. And I'm really honored to be here and to be part of this roundtable. It's just great to contribute to the city of Morgan Hill and all the wonderful things that Morgan Hill delivers. So for those of you who are not familiar, Matt did a wonderful job explaining all about my history and background, so I won't go into any of that, but I will say that I've a little bit about Specialized. For all of you probably on the phone, you've seen all of us riding around on the streets constantly. Hopefully, we're now abiding by all the traffic rules and regulations. We now have a police patrol that tries to keep everybody in order. But you know, we're the largest bicycle brand, I would say, importer in the world, and we sell bikes in 120 countries around the world, and we have a large footprint with individual individual distribution businesses in 40 countries around the world. We do sell bikes, we sell bike parts, we sell bike components, and locally here in Morgan Hill, we actually produce water bottles, which are sold globally throughout the world. And just a little bit about Specialized. So I've been with Specialized now for going on 28 years. And the story of Specialized, when I came to Specialized, which was in 1994, believe it or not, Specialized was the second largest employer in Morgan Hill. And that the second highest employer behind, are you ready for this? Safeway. We were behind Safeway. Safeway happened to be the #1 employer. And the interesting thing about Specialized and being in Morgan Hill is Mike Sinyard, the founder, some of you may know Mike. Mike came to Morgan Hill from San Jose because Morgan Hill was a wonderful place to ride bikes. that was really the appeal in coming from San Jose. And it has been a wonderful place for us to actually grow and scale our business. From when I started, our business was somewhere around $40 million to today, we're close to 2 billion. So it's a big business. It's grown geometrically over this period of time, and it's been just a wonderful journey. And as most of you probably know, the people that specialize, we're all passionate about bikes. We're passionate about bike riding, and we're passionate about bike usage. And we're really focused on both the performance aspects of bicycles, as well as the integration of bicycles for transportation and utility purposes. And our latest entry has been into electric bikes, and I'm sure that many of you have seen them. They have really taken off globally around the world, and we're enjoying a really good success in that particular area. The last thing I'll cover off on is what we do in Morgan Hill. We have a big footprint in Morgan Hill, and our operation in Morgan Hill does the ideation, the design, the development. We do the engineering, we do the testing, and the manufacturing is outsourced primarily to Asia. We do the distribution, and we do sales and finance out of the Morgan Hill operation. We have a large footprint in Morgan Hill. It is our corporate offices, and it is where we all reside, and the leadership resides. So anyway, thanks. That's the story of Specialized. Open to any questions or ideas that anybody has. Thanks.
Thanks, Bob. Appreciate the overview. I'm actually a customer as well. I ride a Specialized mountain bike, so appreciate that. And looking into e-bikes, by the way, as I get older. I'm going to kick it to Eric. Give us a quick overview of Torre and kind of your role, and what are you guys doing? What are you up to?
Sure. So Eric Wilcox, I'm the Vice President of Operations here in Morgan Hill. We have a larger company that has a global footprint. Obviously, Torre Advanced Composites is a subdivision that through acquisition, Torre acquired Torre Advanced Composite, which previously was called Tenkate. And previous to that was Bright Technology, which the founder, Scott Unger, was a big part of that. And Morgan Hill is where they brought this technology of doing composites and prepregs into fruition. And through acquisition, now we are a part of the Torre Greater Group. We make composite materials, unidirectional and fabric epoxy-based prepregs that we sell into the aerospace, industrial, defense industries. I've actually previously, a lot of my experience was with a previous company called Henkel, but over the last 2 years, I was a part of this team here in Morgan Hill, and it's been great. The aerospace industry is very dynamic, and it has many different parts. And Torre Advanced Composites is very interesting because we play in many of the different markets, and it's because we play in all these different markets. It's been a very stable organization. We sell into defense and satellite. We sell into some consumer aerospace, but also industrial applications. And we have two main branches. One is thermoset, which is a temperature cured product. And the other is thermoplastic, which uses induction welding to mold and remold the epoxy prepreg. So it's an interesting technology. That's kind of the future, and we could talk more about it later. But what's really neat about Torre Advanced Composite is seeing that they do everything from the development of raw materials to the manufacturing at this site. We have about 250 to 300 people, both operational labor and science and chemists and executives all reside in this facility, and it's been a really great experience for me to learn this industry and get engaged in this local community. So that's what we got. Thank you for giving me this opportunity.
Thanks, Eric. And for a layman like me, when you're saying advanced composites, I mean, it's essentially you're creating a material that becomes the skin on some of these, you know, like a missile or an airplane or something like that, right?
That's right. So we
Okay.
are a raw material supplier. Like instead of titanium in a plane, you could make that plane out of a carbon fiber or a fiberglass reinforced with an epoxy.
Right. And I've seen your process. It's pretty cool. So thanks.
Amazing.
I need everything explained to me like I'm a third grader, and then I get it.
No problem.
I'm going to kick it down. I'm going to kick it down to Mike. Mike, give us an overview of Sunbasket. What do you guys do?
Thanks for having me on here today, Matt and the team. Sunbasket is a meal kit company. So we make meals that are both, you know, the kits, the traditional ingredients that show up at your house, and you cook them and chop them and do all those things. And we just provide you with the ingredients and the recipe inspiration, as well as we make fully cooked and fully prepared meals that you just heat up in the oven here in Morgan Hill. Everything we do, our goal is everything is healthy, can be delicious. So, you know, we're trying to find ways to present new and creative and innovative flavors to people that are both good for you, as well as you know, blow your mind from what they taste like, and that it isn't, you know, as great as a cheeseburger is. You know, there's things that taste really good, but maybe are a little bit healthier for you too. So we're trying to find that world for people. The other piece that we have is because of our location here in California, we are, you know, one of the larger organic food distributors in the country between my facility here in California, and then we've got another one in New Jersey. So we're right next to the Salinas Valley. We're right next to the Central Valley. And there's a lot of organic produce here, and a lot of ways now through our direct-to-consumer approach to get those organic produce pieces out and in front of customers and into people's homes nice and easily. So we started in San Bruno right by the San Francisco airport, outgrew that facility, and moved into San Jose in 2015, and had a facility up in San Jose. And then in 2019 we outgrew that, and we moved down to Morgan Hill, where a building in our food manufacturing space had opened up and was ready to go. We also have a large facility out in the East Coast, and basically ship everything from Washington State to Texas, out of California, and then I cover the rest of the country out of New Jersey. So that's Sunbasket.
Great, thanks, Mike. And interesting process over there as well. And if you ever get a tour of Sunbasket, bring a jacket because it's chilly. Keeping all that fresh food safe and at the right temperature. Dave, I'm going to kick it to you. Tell us a little bit about Anritsu. What do you guys do?
Yeah, thanks, Matt. Real excited to be here at this roundtable. So my name is Dave Stanford. I'm the Director of Manufacturing Supply Chain here at Anritsu Company, and been here for 27 years. So long time here at the company. Great, really great company that originally was founded in the 1960s as a company called Wiltron. And Wiltron founders saw Morgan Hill as a place to move and to grow the business. So in the mid 1980s, they moved to our current facility. They built the facility in Morgan Hill. And in 1990, the company that we're now called Anritsu Company purchased Wiltron. And we've been a part of that global company. Our headquarters are actually in Atsugi, Japan, but we have our primary facility in the US is in Morgan Hill. We do manufacturing here of what you consider low volume, high mix manufacturing of a variety of different test equipment. We were part of the essential service providers when the pandemic hit. We manufacture products that help support everyone working from home in terms of supporting the AT&T, Verizon, T-Mobiles to help test their base station towers to keep everyone's cell phone and remote workers online. We also have a variety of other high-end, what we call benchtop equipment. That's different various frequency synthesizers, vector network analyzers. one of the things in our industry that's happening is many different areas in telecommunications going higher and higher frequencies and bandwidth. And so it needs products to test that. And so some of the products that we have actually have performance and frequency ranges that no other companies in the world have to offer. And so we're always on the cutting edge of technology, which is great from a business and sometimes challenging for manufacturing, because when you're doing something that no one else in the world can do, there's a reason why they can't do it, because it's really hard. So we have a lot of talented engineers and manufacturing staff that are very impressive in their skills and abilities to build and manufacture product here in Morgan Hill. So that's a little bit of an overview of what we do.
Thanks, Dave, and appreciate the overview and fascinating manufacturing that you guys do in Morgan Hill. Very technical, very slow, very deliberate, a lot of testing, and I've gone on other tours of other employers in Morgan Hill, and I've seen your equipment being used at some of these testing facilities, testing some of the bigger named products that come from Silicon Valley. So it's great to see that business to business opportunity occurring. So gentlemen, I'm gonna just jump in with probably the biggest question that we've talked about, and right now, what's the biggest challenge in your industry? What's the biggest challenge that you're facing in your industry? And potentially how can it be addressed? And Eric, I'm going to put you on the hot spot, let you start. And, I'd like this to be conversational. So
Right.
as we did on our pre-call, gentlemen, feel free to jump in and share and bounce off one another. Thank you.
Yeah, no worries. And I was going to say, when I was looking at this question, I was going to sound like a broken record, because I'm sure everybody's going to have kind of a similar response. But since you picked me first, you ruined my opening line. But I'll still say that it's probably going to be common amongst a lot of people. But I think the biggest challenge might be finding and retaining talented staff. And that's talented staff both from a kind of operator level, working a machine, all the way up to the chemist and the process engineer and the technical type people. It's been kind of a challenge from just it's a dynamic working environment, and just Silicon Valley is very competitive, and so it's been difficult to do that. And then the second one is kind of supply chain related. I know you asked for one challenge, but they're one and two, and supply chain has been very dynamic. If it's from raw materials being available, shortages of specific components that are causing us to then react and have to change our schedules and notify our customers of delays. And then it's logistics, getting them from the ports into the factories those are the biggest challenges. And kind of from a people standpoint, I think coming up with a development plan and showing that Torrey is a great place to work and you can make a career out of it, from an operator level and from the skilled professional type person. Like, we have a great robust customer base. It's a good business to be in, and getting that message out is how we're trying to combat. And then doing better supply and operating and communication with our suppliers and customers, making sure we know with better forecasts and anticipate some of the delays, and get on it earlier to put countermeasures in place. It's kind of what I see out there in the industry. I don't know, maybe some of these other guys have similar problems.
Mike, I'm gonna ask you to respond and kind of jump off that, because I know when the pandemic hit, demand for your product skyrocketed.
It did.
So,
yeah.
So what happened?
I mean, when pandemic, we were essential. We were sending food out. We went from I think we went from 350 employees to over 700 in about 3 weeks, trying to keep up with the demand, and we were sending about 500,000 meals a week out of the facility here around the country. Then my East Coast facility was doing a similar number. And yes, so the labor piece and where labor is post-pandemic is very intriguing. One interesting piece in the Morgan Hill area, at least, is because of our proximity to the Salinas Valley and the growing areas. For me in the food world, I have a very unique, actually very highly talented and skilled workforce available that has a unique opportunity with a place like a Sunbasket, where they don't have to travel to Yuma, Arizona for half the year or things like that. So we can provide some stability to families where they're traveling, across the country to follow the harvest, whereas they can come into our world and be there. So it's been interesting. Now New Jersey is a different answer on that. And so really our big challenge right now is actually almost the exact opposite of what happened during the pandemic. Is now everybody's allowed to go back out and they're opening up their world, and people want to go, they want to go to the restaurant, they want to go out to eat. So, we've introduced a lot more people to adoption of direct-to-consumer sales of foods and things. Now it's how do I keep people excited? How to keep my customers coming in when, I don't want to be at home anymore. So, definitely.
Interesting.
Mhm.
Bob, what's your biggest challenge right now facing Specialized in your manufacturing environment? You're on mute. We'd love to hear what you have to
Okay,
say.
great. Okay, our situation is quite different actually than the rest of the team here. The bike industry is primarily importing products from overseas, and in particular Asia, China, Taiwan, Southeast Asia. And our biggest challenge by far has been Section 301 tariffs. We've been impacted by a 25% import tariff on bikes, bike parts, bike components, all that are being imported into the United States. We have anti-dumping activities that have been raised, particularly for the European community. And so that's been a real challenge for us to deal with. And it really tests what the level of price elasticity is in the product. We do have a luxury item that is generally purchased with disposable income, and we're dealing in an environment today where there's high inflation, where we're seeing costs increase, where interest rate also is extremely relevant as we provide credit terms and payment terms to our customers. And of course, our assemblers need to be paid quickly. So, how are we addressing it? Some of the things that are really important, we're aggressively and actively looking at reshoring. That's a key point in how we can begin to localize production, to start dealing with manufacturing and assembly on a more local basis. All of our assembly operations that we are working with, we're automating tremendously with robotics in order to increase the ability to scale and our capacity to deliver. We're integrating AI where we can in order to simplify the fabrication process. From our product offerings, we're simplifying what we do, the product offerings that we have. We're building flexibility into our system. And overall, we're just learning to become just better and more efficient in the way that we operate.
Bob, if you need help onshoring anywhere, please let me know. We can find some space for you, I'm sure.
Thank you. Yeah, that's, don't worry, I'll be coming, looking for some kind of program where we can do some reshoring, but I can talk to you about that later.
Excellent. Just what we want to hear. Dave, what's going on at Anritsu? What's your biggest challenge, your biggest opportunity there?
Yeah, I'd say it's similar to what Eric was sharing. First is people, just finding the talent from an engineering, from a production, we have a machine shop that we have quite a few employees that have been with the company many, many years. Those of you who've been to the campus know we have like 25-year parking signs, and we have a lot of parking signs on our sites that show we have great employees that have been here a long time, but they're getting close to retirement age. And we need to backfill, and finding those people with the skill sets is really challenging. So we're flexible. We recruit, and even in some of our areas that have in the production areas that we train kind of from scratch sometimes with our experienced people. And then on the engineering side, that's always been a challenge, is finding that engineering talent. And so that's one. And then again, to echo Eric again, the supply chain is just really, really difficult right now. Our business is very healthy from an orders perspective. A lot of customers, when some of our more innovative products, we're seeing really booming orders, but getting material is really, really challenging. I've heard some people say it's the worst supply chain since World War II in the country, and that's we feel it. This is a big challenge, and it's a lot of it semiconductor devices is a big one for us. Some raw materials as well, of other types of raw material, but semiconductors is those devices. We have a lot of specialty RF microwave devices that are very difficult, and so we've been putting a ton of energy into improving that as well. So those are two of the biggest challenges. And then just from a cost perspective, we are competing against a global environment. So we're competing against many other companies that have manufacturing in offshore. And so this idea that Bob highlighted too of innovation and trying to continue to find ways to be more efficient in our business, and including automation where it makes sense. Sometimes in a low volume, high mix environment, innovation is more difficult because when you have high volume, technology can really pay off, but low volume can be more challenging. So.
Yeah, so the supply chain question, I've heard a couple of you touch on it, and I think it's a little bit different for each of you. Is it getting better, or is it getting worse, or is there something that we should be thinking about doing as a state or a nation to kind of address supply chain, or is this something that's completely up to your own, individual companies to address? And I'll open that up to anybody.
Yeah, for us, I think it's kind of it's going to be a challenge for a while. I know for us in particular in the semiconductor area, there's been a lot of investment of these companies that are actually opening up some new fabs in the US, and there's been some government intervention, even in the state of California, to try to invest here in the US. And that's great, and that'll help us, but those are 2, 3, 4 year projects when you really start seeing from investment to getting parts. And so it's going to be with us for a while, I think. So I'd say it's kind of staying the same, at least from our perspective at Enritsu.
Okay.
I could comment a little bit on that too, because our raw materials aren't semiconductor, but they're specialty chemical. And so there's certain key components in raw materials that due to regulatory issues and other expense have been offshored to other countries. And so now they become a precursor that's made offshore that has to be imported in as a raw material to some of our subcomponents that then get further processed and then come to us. So even though there's still a lot of manufacturing in the United States, some of these precursors that might be hazardous or might have some other chemical reason or environmental reason to, that we didn't want to have it in the United States, now it becomes a constraint. And if something politically or some remote thing happens because of a natural disaster, now all of a sudden that whole supply chain shut down, waiting for that one component. And I think, like Dave said, it's could be years of companies start onshoring some of that raw material supply and fundamental chemistry back in the United States. It could take a while.
So did COVID teach us that? I mean, you heard Bob mention it. They're looking at onshoring more supply. I mean, did it teach us that we need to onshore more supply chain, that we're vulnerable as manufacturers as a country, and that we really need to be looking at supply chain and maybe onshoring more?
If I can address that, Matt, it's really dependent. There are certain certain products or certain businesses that have high barriers and entries, and there's others that have low barriers to entry. And particularly as we look at manufacturing locally, you need that manufacturing cluster. And that manufacturing cluster really is a blend of high barriers to entry, low barriers to entry. And along with that, you need, companies that are passionate and really have a desire to build a business, grow a business, to service a particular market. And then, from there, are they willing to scale? Is there adequate labor? How do we deal with things like equity? Is there management capabilities locally? So there's a lot of dimensions to that as we do talk about onshoring, and we do talk about how supply chain impacts businesses, because it is relative to a lot of different dimensions. And I think that those dimensions enter in, particularly as you do look at onshoring and bringing production back here to the United States. And I would say that, the challenge is certainly today is the US dollar is extremely strong against all currency around the world. And today, import cost, if you're importing something from Europe, it's 15% less than it was just 6 to 8 months ago, or from China or from Taiwan. And that poses its own complications, particularly if your business is dependent on some degree of export. And as export is much more important, at least from the manufacturing standpoint, to balance and to be capable of having a stable business globally.
I'm gonna pivot a little bit because I think it's an important topic to cover, and we covered it just briefly in our pre-call. And just how are your companies addressing sustainability and your impact on the environment? And Mike, I'm going to start with you. You started, talking about organic products being an ingredient in your ultimate final product. And how does that play into your company addressing sustainability?
Yeah, I mean, one of the challenges that my industry as a whole has is the perception of the amount of packaging. And when someone orders a meal kit box, they get this cardboard box, and then there's just a million individual packages that comes in there. And how do we manage that in a world where the reality is our food waste is 2 to 3% of what we buy. We end up wasting. Versus at a grocery store, it's somewhere between 35 and 40%, especially when you go in the produce aisles, because you have to keep the shelves looking pretty. You can't have 4 apples left on a display case, because even though those 4 apples are perfect, everybody thinks those are the 4 that are rejects.
Nobody else wanted.
So they've got to keep everything fresh to help with us. Also, temperatures and things like that aren't ideal when you're walking in a place, because as you alluded to earlier, Matt, my building's cold. It's a refrigerator the whole way through. Versus, if everybody had to shop in a 30-degree supermarket, that would be a little challenging. But no, so our goal is we've been looking at all of our materials, whether it's our insulation, our box, how do we get everything out of recyclable cardboard? What do we get, as far as how much percentage can we use before you end up losing capabilities with the box? How do I get my insulation so you can recycle everything, all the plastics, everything we use inside? How are they all recyclable or compostable? So we've been attacking that, as well as how do you then get these boxes to customers in the most efficient way possible with the least, carbon footprint from a shipping perspective. So using different carriers, local carriers versus all the national carriers that have multiple hubs and drops for that same box. How do I get it as close to the customer possible? So there's as little travel time for them as we can.
Great. Thanks, Mike. Anybody else want to weigh in on this topic?
Yeah, I know Ritsu being a Japanese company, Japan is very serious about being a green company, environmentally friendly. We have ISO certification for basically the environmental, you call it, improvement processes. And so one of the things just last year, we added a lot of solar panels on the campus. I think we're the second largest solar generating location in Morgan Hill, I believe. You can fact check me on that, Matt, but that's what I heard from our facilities. And then we also, one of the things, we have a thin film group that does metallized substrates. It's very similar to other types of semiconductor processes. And one of the things that you may not realize, it uses a ton of water, those processes. And obviously we're in a drought. And so we were looking at that, and we found some equipment to recycle water that actually reduced in some of our processes there, like 10x amount of water that we were able to reduce in the semiconductor process. And so it's something that Enritsu takes very seriously. It's part of their pillars of being environmentally friendly and giving back to the community. And so those are a couple examples of things we're doing.
And Matt, for Specialized, we are producing a product, of course, that is carbon negative, but we've set within our business a pillar which we call pedal the planet forward. And basically, as a business, we are now working on meeting science-based targets, those that have been outlined within the Paris Climate Accord. We've, over the past couple of years, we've worked very hard on doing life cycle analysis on all of the products that we have to understand where the greenhouse gases are coming, how we can address each of those greenhouse gases. Locally, we've looked at what's called scope 1 and scope 2, things that really are within our control as a business. And we too, just like Dave, we've installed solar panels. I think everybody has seen that. We have a little bee colony, actually, that we're producing honey locally in Morgan Hill. I think most people know that. And we're working very actively on our scope 3, which are things that are beyond our control in ways where we can impact the carbon footprint that we have. And I did mention, one of the key points, certainly in addressing sustainability, is reshoring, producing things locally, and producing things locally and selling things locally. And that I see as being something that's going to become more and more important here in the United States as we look forward, that we're going to have to do a lot of work in order to be more sustainable, and we're going to have to do things and change some behavior so that we do have an environment and a planet that is sustainable, and that we're good corporate global citizens.
Thanks, Bob. Eric, any quick comments?
Yeah, just
I'm gonna jump to another topic real quick.
No, I did want to piggyback on what Dave said. Toray is also a Japanese corporation and very much motivated by sustainability and contributing to society is what the way they produce it. They talk about it. And what's really interesting, we're also putting some solar panels. Hopefully we'll compete with the greatest number of solar panel competition for Morgan Hill. I think we'll probably rank in the 3rd or 4th place, but I'm good with that. That's pretty good. But overall, what's interesting about advanced composites, you can imagine Bob's making a bicycle out of some steel or an alloy. Those have a high density, but when you can replace and put some advanced composite material, whether it's carbon fiber or something like that, where you can get the same strength, but make it lighter, now your electric bike uses less energy and it's more environmentally friendly. So a lot of the aerospace is about lightening the plane so that when you're flying, you take less fuel. So a lot of the composite materials that we're doing are playing in this industry where, the power to weight ratio and the strength of the calculation, we're really enabling people through our technology to be more sustainable and be more efficient with their energy use. And I know the thermoset side, which uses energy to cure it, and it has a lot of autoclaves and pressure and a lot of things you have to do to make a good product. But our thermoplastic technology, which is the new generation that we're putting out, really is a thermoplastic where you just melt it and you put it in a form. You can remelt it, put it in a new form. That's really looking at the whole life cycle of a product. And so it's pretty exciting, the technology that we're using and how it can impact our, just engineering prowess in the future.
Yeah, I think that's spot on. And by the way, I love the competition for who has the most solar power grids. And if you take a Google Earth view of Morgan Hill, virtually every major employer in Morgan Hill has solar on their roof and are adding more. It's we have multiple applications within our planning department for additional solar capacity, and we understand why. So we appreciate that. So I'm going to pivot a little bit and ask you guys just we're getting to the point where we're going to wrap up here in a few minutes. So just like lightning round stuff, like and globally, like what's the biggest opportunity for manufacturing in the US? If you can like put on a quick answer to that. Any of you want to take a shot at that, like in a few words?
Yeah, I can take a little quick shot at it, and it's this thermoplastic technology is really going to enable people to, you don't need a giant machine. It's a very quick kind of employee minimal type of way to get the value stream. So you don't have all the upstream equipment and everything needed. You can really put in small thing, high agility. I think Specialized might have some of our stuff. There's some other onshoring applications where they're taking this thermoplastic technology and making wheels and tires and frames and different components. So I think that's an interesting thing for me.
Matt, I just want to say, export is a big opportunity. The percentage of products that are produced here in the United States that are exported outside of the United States, excluding agricultural products, is tiny. So manufacturing and export outside of the United States is where the big opportunity is. There's a whole big world out there beyond the US.
Yeah, I think you see this going back a little bit to the semiconductor investment, that I think there's a recognition that some of these technologies that are so ubiquitous within so many different products and technologies that are so critical to both industry and government, that getting some of that technology that you can rely on the US to support, that we see some of the fragileness of the supply chain that the pandemic kind of highlighted. So I see certainly in talking to some of our suppliers, there's a huge investment in the semiconductor industry that's probably going to be a big opportunity, as well as you get into some of the obviously the electronic, all of the car manufacturing and battery technology is going to be certainly a growing area within, I think, domestic manufacturing as well.
And for me, I think it's related to, with the ability or the lack of ability to have as many people on the handwork side as we go forward, it's how do we improve the machine, the robot, human working next to each other, having the robots taking on the more dangerous, heavier jobs, repetitive jobs, but still the need for people to be doing some of the real fine and manipulations and things that they're not the same every single time. So it's how do we build that combination of man and machine working side by side, as opposed to competing with each other for the same job.
So really quick, kind of a lightning round, Bob. I'm going to start with you. Your industry, 5 to 10 years. Are you growing? Are you stable? Are you growing? Are you shrinking? Where do you see your industry without violating any SEC rules?
The industry is growing. I mean, imagine we're in a wonderful industry. It's good for the environment, health, fitness. And what we see going on is, e-bikes. That's where the future is. It's growing at a pace right now of about 15% per year globally. And it's where the industry's going.
Yeah, and you can take some of Eric's composites and products that he's making and make those carbon bikes even lighter and lighter. That's awesome. Eric, what do you say?
No, 5-10 years, we really see explosive growth in the urban air mobility. So when you think about the eVTOLs, Joby, and all these other companies that are making products there, if we get them integrated in with these thermoplastic composite materials, their assembly goes up. It's really goes mainstream. We can see some explosive growth, really, really strong.
Great. Mike?
I mean, the world has now understood that you can buy things that you didn't realize before and have it shipped directly to your house. So I think our spaces continue to have a large potential for growth. And really for us, it's as a manufacturer and really built out our manufacturing infrastructure, it's that's a huge hurdle for a lot of folks to get into our space. So how can I actually provide them as a, within the contract manufacturing world and all those other pieces, how can I help provide other companies a shot to get in there while, extending my machine runtime.
All right, Dave.
Yeah, in our business, we're very focused on all the wireless technology side, and as you know, 5G has kind of been rolled out now, and we're already working on the 6G kind of technology now. So wireless and automation and kind of having a wire at every one of your appliances is going to have a wireless connection. That whole industry has huge growth, and the need to test all of those technologies is significant as well. And in our business, we have a few different competitors, but very few hardware companies in the business, because it takes a lot of engineering talent. It takes a lot of tribal knowledge to get into this business. So there's also a lot of hurdles for new companies. It's not like a software type of business where you get a few programmers and you put on your website. This is some challenging and exciting opportunities that we see huge growth in our industry as well.
You're not building cell phone apps.
No, we're not building apps. It's something a little bit more.
I've seen what you do, Dave. It's pretty complex.
So
Yeah.
yes. So it's a really good outlook in the future.
Awesome. We need to kind of wrap up this side of the panel. Anything any one of you want to say before we wrap up that you didn't get a chance to share? Maybe there's a lot, but anything.
No, thanks for hosting this. I think just from a Morgan Hill perspective, one of the things that we do see as in some ways a competitive advantage being in Morgan Hill is that we have people that live in Morgan Hill or Gilroy or those places, and we're not one of those companies that has a lot of remote people. We need people on site on our campus, and so that's been a competitive advantage for us, that they don't want to drive into the San Jose or the Palo Alto or the Mountain View. That saving an hour every day or 2 hours every day on their commute, being in Morgan Hill has been a good kind of recruiting advantage for us, for those people that live in the Gilroy or the Hollister or some of those areas where it shortens their commute. So that's one thing to note that we've really appreciated about Morgan Hill and this location here.
Yeah, I enjoy that reverse commute as well. So let's not tell too many people. Anything else from anybody? And then we're going to wrap. All right. I really appreciate all of you participating this morning, Bob, Dave, Eric, and Mike. I really appreciate your insights and your participation today, and really appreciate you guys being major significant employers in the city of Morgan Hill and contributing to our economy. We're going to move on to our next panel. So thank you very much. Feel free to stick around. I'd ask that our other panelists join the webinar piece. Ask that they come on over, Jean and Mark and Poonam, come on over. Appreciate that. Awesome. Great job, guys. So our second panel, we're going to pivot pretty quickly here, and is going to expand upon our first panel. We're going to try to address some of the challenges and opportunities that you heard in the first panel with information, tools, resources, and advice for, candidly, manufacturers of all sizes. So let me introduce our esteemed panel, and we'll get right to it. First, Mark Martin. He is PhD, Regional Director, Advanced Manufacturer Employer Engagement for the Bay Area Community Colleges. Dr. Martin has over 25 years experience in manufacturing and engineering, including product development, manufacturing and design, research, teaching and workforce development at the high school, community college, and university and professional development levels. Product design and manufacturing expertise focused on methods for designing and developing new products. He previously worked in the medical device field, developing electromechanical products, as well as founding and running an educational and consulting company focused on product development and manufacturing. Welcome, Dr. Martin. It's great to have you here.
Thank you.
Our second panelist is Poonam Patel, Assistant Deputy Director of California Governor Office of Business and Economic Development, also known as GoBiz. I'll refer it to as GoBiz moving forward. Poonam was appointed as the Assistant Deputy Director of Business and Investment Services, CalBiz, at GoBiz in 2020, where she has also been serving as a business development specialist for the Bay Area region since 2018. Previous to her work on the CalBiz team, she served as a permit specialist to provide regulatory assistance to California businesses from 2013 to 18. She navigates businesses through state incentive programs and provides tailored site selection services for employers, developers, and consultants who are considering California relocation and expansion. She has a master's in business administration at the University of California, Davis. Go Aggies. And we always look forward on the economic development side. We always look forward to getting emails from Poonam and the folks at CalBiz. We're like, hey, who's looking for space? Our last panelist, excuse me, is Gene Russell, President and CEO of Mannix. Mannix. Gene has 40 years of global manufacturing and sourcing experience in senior leadership positions within telecommunications, consumer electronics, durable goods, and home decor. He led a successful turnaround at a mid-sized manufacturing firm prior to joining Mannix, the NIST Manufacturing Center for Northern California. At Mannix, he leads a team of manufacturing engineers, food scientists, Six Sigma lean consultants, quality experts, sales trainers, leadership coaches, and a nonprofit business model under NIST MEP federal support, California GoBiz, and industry partnerships. Mannix consults, coaches, and trains in multiple manufacturing disciplines, and really they are the go-to resource for manufacturers. And Gene, for a guy who's been doing this 40 years, you look amazing. So congratulations to you. Welcome to all. What's that?
California lifestyle.
Awesome. I'll join you in that. Awesome. Appreciate that. So I'm going to allow each of you, I read your bios are great. They give like a brief overview of who you are, but tell me a little bit about yourself more detailed, like your role in the manufacturing ecosystem. And Poonam, I'm going to start with you.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Matt, for that introduction. And it's a pleasure to be invited to this panel group. I'm part of one unit in the larger GoBiz office. All of the units collectively help with economic development efforts in the state. My team specifically, as Matt mentioned, works directly with businesses to help navigate them through various incentive programs, tax credits, sales and use tax exemptions, grants, anything really under the sun that can help businesses be successful here in California. And we work with local economic development partners like Matt and his team at Morgan Hill and other local partners to find suitable sites for companies as well. So that's kind of our two-pronged focus in how we work within economic development. But larger GoBiz, we have a number of different services and programs. We've got a small business support team that works with our capital infusion program to support small business technical providers across the state. We also have a number of different loan guarantee programs and loan assistance programs for small businesses that are starting to get up and running. And quite frankly, manufacturers are kind of our top hits for those businesses to utilize. We've also got a permitting assistance team, which permitting is always an area of complexity and can be hard to navigate, whether you're looking at local, state, or federal permitting requirements to get up and running. So, we have a number of specialists that are just dedicated to guiding businesses through that process and serving essentially as mediators to help drive drive permitting approvals. We've got an international team. California likes to think of ourselves as a small country, if you will. And so we've got a plethora of services to help with the grants in the exporting realm. We also help with any importing, questions that businesses have. And, we have MOU agreements with nations as well to promote manufacturing in and out of California and get presence of companies out there in foreign markets as well. So there's more I can go into, but those are kind of the main hitting services that I think manufacturers tend to utilize within our office. And I'm happy to be here today to talk how we can get more involved and how we can share more information about what manufacturers can utilize at the state.
Great, thank you. Gene, I'm going to kick it to you.
Okay, great. So, what's in it for a manufacturer to reach out to Manx or vice versa? So, we can deliver a lot of things that everyone talked about in the original panel, which is workforce training, upskilling. We work with the state to provide cost offsets. We have cost offsets from the federal government. So the focus of our national network is on the small, mid-sized manufacturer. We occasionally will do a project like a Siemens or an Olympus, but our real bread and butter is a company with 20 to 200 to 300 employees who is not sitting around with a lot of money to spend on consultants. So we provide those consulting and advisory services with those cost offsets. Some of those are ETP. Currently, we have a small business technical grant from the state, which runs through next October 2023. We have about, Matt, we have about 35 individual specialty consultants, people who are PhDs in their field, engineers, food safety, quality. So we can bring those to pretty small companies that normally would not have the opportunity to access those people. And that's what the program was founded as in 1988 when it was originally started. And the California MEP program was started in 1995. CMTC and Manx were the original MEP centers. And today, after, I think we formed this in 2016, we became a subrecipient of CMTC, although a separate company, but we work much closer than we used to with CMTC for a statewide program, which is something that we wanted to deliver for GoBiz. So they would have one organization to do all this. So that's what we do. And we love it. We're very passionate about it. You mentioned my background. I started out global sourcing. I became very good at it. It became my job. One day I woke up in Qingdao, China. I was in a conference room. I saw the hammer and sickle on the wall. Communist Party meets here at 2 p.m. on Thursday. I was like, I got to get out of this gig. So I've been very passionately trying to bring American manufacturing back. But one fun fact that people forget is that there's 27 million factories in China and there's 243,000 in the United States. So the scale difference is pretty amazing. So, but we can bring a lot back.
Awesome.
And thanks for having me, Matt. Appreciate
You bet,
it.
Gene. I'm really happy to have you here and appreciate George Chow's. He helped inspire me to do today's event, so appreciate it as well. Mark, love the background, love the technology being implemented, the robotics there. I am a product of community colleges in California, back when they were known as junior colleges. So that dates myself. But what's your role and the role of community colleges in the manufacturing ecosystem? I think I kind of know, but I think, why don't you expand upon that?
Yeah. So my role is simple. I mean, you ask manufacturers what their biggest issue is, and especially now, they'll say, person power. How can we get the workers into our factories, especially the skilled trades workers, to produce the product that is in demand right now? And this is an issue across the country. I've talked to kind of colleagues in Austin, Texas, and North Carolina and others, and they say it is the same issue there. So how do we help you as a manufacturer find that skilled trades person that you need to run those machines that you need? And so that is what the community colleges are able to do. There's 28 throughout the Bay Area. Most of them have some related program, machining, welding, industrial maintenance, CAD, electronic technician. So how do we help the manufacturers connect with those colleges and the students find those jobs? And along with that, how do we get more kids, and not even kids, adults as well, interested and motivated and aware of the career opportunities in manufacturing. So that's my role, to help you find the workforce that you need.
Great, thank you. Gene, were you gonna say something?
Yeah, I have a question. You know, I remember Mark being on a panel with me, I don't know, maybe last year, and you mentioned that a lot of the trades, including manufacturing at Laney in Oakland, for example, they were getting hired before they even got their certificates or before they got their degree, because it's such a lack of the skill sets, right? Is that still happening?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, you think about it, you know, a lot of, as managers, a lot of you may have had your bachelor's. If you do not complete your bachelor's, if you're one course short of getting your bachelor's, you know, some people might have considered that to be a failure. I mean, in the skilled trades, what you need, your success is, do you have the skill sets to to do the job, to do the work that a company is hiring you for? So we see some students that have gone through 1 or 2 maybe machining classes, and they have the skill sets to get started and working for the company. And then often what they'll do is they'll continue working or continue taking classes in the evenings. But yeah, it's hard to keep, you know, people at the colleges through the kind of the full training, at least full time. But a lot of times they will come back and continue their training while they're working full time.
Mark, I'm trying to figure out how I ask this question, I guess, because I mean, the dynamics of what employers just in general need, right, are constantly changing and evolving, right? Technology is changing the workplace, especially around manufacturing, more robotic, more artificial intelligence. How does the, you know, as you're looking to educate and train, you know, the workforce, how does the community college system like respond to that constantly evolving, you know, environment?
Well, you know, I mean, you're right. Technology does change, but to be honest with you, the basics of the manufacturing skilled trades are still pretty much the same. I mean, machining is still machining. Yes, we've moved to CNC, but that's been around for decades. You know, you need to kind of keep your skill sets up on that particular trade, but it's not changing so dramatically that the community colleges need to reset every 2 or 3 years or 5 years, you know, maybe more so like computer software, it happens. But I mean, you know, machining, maintenance is still electronics, electrical, hydraulics, pneumatics. I mean, those have been around for a long time. And, you know, now you might be applying it to a, you know, a KUKA robot or a, you know, some sort of collaborative robot, but it's still hydraulics, pneumatics, electrical. And so it's still kind of the same, you know, PLC, which is the programming language for kind of industrial equipment, again, has also been around for decades. So the core set of skills needed has been taught at the community colleges. And as new skill sets are needed, there are updates. You know, we're looking at composites have been around for a while, but they're becoming more prevalent. So, you know, you just had a speaker from Torre, and I work with, you know, working with Joby and Sail Drone and others who need composites. So that is something that as we see more people being hired and that skill set in greater need, we're looking at, can we implement kind of a training program or classes or whatever it might be needed to provide workforce for those manufacturers.
Great, thank you. Go ahead.
I'm running into certain situations, and I think you heard it from Glenn at Thermo, where the really young generation that is coming along, they don't have the same PC skills that somebody had even 15 years ago, maybe 10 years ago. So they've been working in an iPad environment or some smart tablet kind of environment. And some of the factories still have very much PC driven business. And so they're having to teach them those kinds of things, very basic, that we would think that, you know, people would have since they were 12. But are you guys doing that at the community college level, or seeing that as an issue?
I mean, I was surprised as that as well when I said, hey, you know, the kids will know how to run the computers, and you're right, they're working more the iPad, the iPhone environment. We're not. I think it's also a skill set that you can teach relatively easily. I mean, say we're not doing, we certainly have classes on that, but as a machinist, we don't say, you know, you have to take a class on Excel or something, because I also think those are skills that you can teach pretty easily at the you know, at the company itself. So we don't focus on that, but usually as part of their classes, they still have to get into systems. Typically, it's much easier if they get it on the computer versus the iPhone, their learning management system and stuff. But I think it's not addressed specifically around that computer use.
Do you find the biggest roadblock is the math, or is it the parents not wanting their child to go in the technical?
I think it's the technical trades. Everybody out there, hey, your kid's going to go to college, and they don't mean 2-year college. They don't mean community college. They mean university. Whereas 30-35% of jobs require a bachelor's is all. And so there's a huge contingent of people who might start college, and usually got about a third of them drop out after the first year. I say college, university. So I think it's that, it's societal, it's parental, it's teachers, counselors. Every teacher is got their bachelor's. So I think that's the issue. Matt, go ahead.
Go ahead, Matt. Go ahead.
Gene, go ahead. You're doing good.
So do you find the addition of robotics, and particularly these BattleBot kind of competitions, bring kids into an environment where they're actually building things and using their hands, which is something that is really lacking outside of that world, versus the shade tree mechanics that our fathers were, working on stuff with their hands?
Yeah, they do. It helps, and I think it's a much more amenable project to have at your high schools if you have a robotics class versus a machining or welding. So Berkeley High has a robotics program that we visited recently, although they're also implementing a machining program. So good for them. So I think it's not, we're not going to reconstitute. I say we're not. It's be difficult to reconstitute your shop programs in the high schools.
Right.
And so I think this more kind of a cross-discipline, multidiscipline type projects, be the BattleBots or First Robotics, which is, get all kind of focused around robotics, are good approaches to get kids interested in kind of working with their hands, which I think is key. I think the key thing in the high schools, get them interested in learning that this is a career, but also that they like it. Because if they like it, then they might say, hey, how can I pursue this further? And that's where the community colleges can then really give them the full amount of training that they needed to go into the manufacturing workforce.
Great. Poonam, I started the kicking off today's webinar talking about the strength of manufacturing in California, right? And we're a leading manufacturer in several key areas, very highly technical areas. How do we build, but also at the same time, put on my old Chamber of Commerce hat, right? We're also typically ranked like 50th as the best place to do business, right, in the country. So we have a very challenging business climate. How do we, as not to put you on the spot, but like, how does the state build upon like the strength of this ecosystem while addressing some of the, those challenges, with a difficult climate sometimes? Why are we so good, and how do we become better, I guess?
Yeah, no, it's a valid question, and one that we're asked every day as we're trying to battle the perception that California isn't a good state to do business or continue doing business. And I often find the challenges are very complex. As I mentioned earlier before, we've got startup considerations, where permitting can be a challenge, and through a life cycle of a business, permitting is always there. And so that's an area of focus that our team has definitely taken to heart. I used to be a permitting specialist. I remember hosting pre-application meetings for businesses, and quite often it's not always about the regulations themselves that are challenging, it's the process. It's the process of getting through the locals, through the state regulatory agencies. And so we've found it very helpful to guide businesses, especially those that don't have the capital to hire a consultant to have them figure out, how to navigate these waters. But for us to essentially serve as the state experts to navigate them through those waters. So whether it's holding pre-application meetings, with regulatory partners, anyone who's going to have a touch on a project, to facilitate that is something that we, try to achieve for businesses of any type. here in California at any size. When we talk about workforce challenges, right, which has definitely been a hard leaning topic on this call already, we care very much near and dear to harboring that spirit of innovation and technical expertise that California has always had in our workforce. We have, programs like ETP that Jean mentioned earlier, that Mannix is very closely aligned to, where, the state isn't necessarily the expert on, what types of training is needed for companies. We rely on companies to tell us what they need to upskill their workforce, and work with our university systems and college systems to do that. But we can provide the funds, right, to assist with the expenses of doing training. And so whether that's companies directly contracting with the state to do that, or with working with partners like Jean at Mannix, CMTA, CMTC, the like, and other trade associations, we find it quite helpful and quite beneficial for companies to get that assistance, whether they're doing training in-house or through a third-party provider, to upskill their workforce, to provide general career development along the way. It's very flexible in what it can provide training for, and it's essentially a dollar for dollar reimbursement on the cost to do so. So that's a program that we've had here in California, I'm told, since the 70s. Jean, you may know better. I don't know. But
did you just call Jean old?
I did not say that at all. Jean mentioned he has 40 years of experience, so I'm betting on that. In any case, the challenges are vast. The panel before us talked very extensively about the freight, and sustainable goods movement issues. Just this last June, the legislature helped us in allowing us to have a port and freight infrastructure program, albeit maybe too late, but it's there now. And essentially, our governor proposed a $2.3 billion supply chain resilience budget package that would help with port operations and freight infrastructure to help solve these issues that are more nuanced to us now. The issues are vast. But I'd say that it's the innovation and collaboration of businesses and government working together that has gotten us through and really set us apart. And the spirit that we have here in California that we can do it. It's an inclusive and sustainable focus that we have for a California for all.
Thank you for that. Jean, was there something you wanted to add?
Well, I think that it's an industry that's always intensely focused on delivering their product, and they have purchase orders with delivery time. So it's very difficult to get their time. It's very difficult to spend time talking to them, and we honor that as best we can. We might hold a webinar and not very many show up. So we try to get out and talk to them in their space. And it's interesting to talk to manufacturers, and you can see how hungry and how aggressive other states are for their own economic development. And I think that is an issue that we all face every day, from governors of other states handing people checks for millions of dollars. That's very aggressive.
Yeah, no, we see that in the economic development space.
Yeah.
And so I want to bring this up. And so recently, and I'm looking to my screen over here because I'm going to read it because I need the prompt. The state passed AB 1951, which would have provided sales and use tax exemption for the purchase of manufacturing and research and development equipment not exceeding $200 million. The state legislature passed it. The governor vetoed the bill. I guess from a local jurisdictional perspective, we're probably happy he vetoed the bill, because it was his message was that while he supported the intent of the bill, it would have resulted in significant tax losses for local governments, right, which would really impact our essential services. So with that in mind, right, what are like the immediate available incentives that manufacturers can like look at and go get like right now today? Jean, you might know them Poonam, you might know them and maybe you can share them right now.
Yeah, sure. So on the sales and use tax exemption, and we still have programs to assist manufacturing. We have a partial sales and use tax exemption program that only affects the state portion of the sales and use tax collection. So that is a program that's open to any manufacturer as long as you fall within the NAICS codes, the North American Industry Classification codes within manufacturing, which is essentially that 3 series definition. You are eligible to utilize that program. There's no application. It's a 1-page form similar to like a resale certificate that you fill out and provide to whoever you're purchasing the equipment from at the point of sale. You can even go retroactive on that. So if you didn't know about this program and wanted to utilize it, there's a process to apply with our tax and fee administration, our sales and use tax collecting entity, to get reimbursements on those costs incurred. And this is really for any type of purchase that you're making to help your manufacturing operations. We have companies that have claimed a chair that someone is sitting on that's running in a production line, all the way to all the production line equipment. It can even be applied to construction costs to get your manufacturing facility up and running. So that's our partial sales and use tax exclusion program. And we also have a full sales and use tax exclusion program that's run out of our treasurer's office. So we have eligibility considerations for the full sales and use tax exclusion. You have to be an advanced manufacturer, either producing advanced transportation products or in alternative energy source production. And a new one that they added in recent years is recycled feedstock. So essentially, if you're a manufacturer that's helping to divert waste from landfills and repurposing that waste into products, you would be eligible for that program as well. It is competitive. You do have to apply, but essentially it would exempt you from the local portion of the sales tax, which has been a standing program already approved in statute, and as well as the state portion, so hence that full exclusion. So a lot of companies utilize both of these programs together. Whatever doesn't qualify for the full, they would apply the partial for. So that's on the sales and use tax exemption standpoint. I can go more and more unless Gene and Mark, you wanted to chime in, and then I'm happy to fill in with other programs too, if you guys have anything you'd like to share.
What's the website where someone can find all that?
Yeah, I will put it in the chat.
We disabled the chat.
Oh, okay.
For fear of other things, but if you can just name it, then we'll.
Sure. So the partial sales and use tax exclusion program, that is on the Department of Tax and Fee Administration website. So if you go to CDTFA, I know we love our acronyms here in government, .ca.gov. You will find it there. So cdtfa.ca.gov. And then the full sales and use tax exclusion program. I'm not even going to bore you with that acronym. It's called the CEATFA program, CEATFA program, is on the Treasurer's Office website. So you can just put treasurer.ca.gov.
And I think some of these resources are actually linked on our Choose Morgan Hill website under resources.
Yes. I saw that. I was very happy to see that, Matt. And they're also on our GoBiz website too. So
yeah.
I also want to say there's some indirect I should say, I don't know if subsidies is the right word, but there's some indirect help that the state gives as well. The community college system, it costs $46 a unit to take a class at the community college system. And so if you take a 3-unit class, it's $150. I mean, that is very low. And then there's typically funding for those who can't even afford that. So those are on certain can get that waived for free. So that is a subsidy of helping train the employees that are going into manufacturers. And obviously there's not enough of them right now, but we need it. There's also a lot of funding that has come down through the state to update the community college programs over the years. So if you walk into some of these shops, you will see the most modern equipment. We've had people from Lawrence Berkeley Labs who run machine shops there come into the machine shop at Laney College in Oakland, and, kind of be envious of the equipment that they are being, trained on. And so there is money that comes down in those formats. I mean, I'm from Oklahoma. My niece had to pay $250 a unit to go to community college in Oklahoma. I mean, and so there's these subsidies that help our people become more educated and move up in their career opportunities. And there's additional stuff around apprenticeships, which, I would definitely check that out or reach out to me. We can talk more about that. So there are a lot of state programs that help out manufacturers that way as well.
Yeah.
Great. Thanks, Mark.
And then I'll just, oh, sorry, Gene, you're going to say.
No, go ahead.
I'll just add, so, we also have financing programs at the state, whether we're talking about tax exempt bonds to set up manufacturing facilities, or loan guarantee programs. So essentially loan guarantee, loss coverage, collateral support, all of these programs in the vein that, if businesses are finding it difficult to get financing through conventional means in the market, private market, the state essentially will back those loans, either a guarantee or a coverage. There are opportunities within our Infrastructure and Economic Development Bank, or our iBank, and at the Treasurer's Office to pursue those opportunities if financing is what you seek as well.
And if you don't know how to figure that stuff out, then you call Gene at Manex and he helps you.
There are good things coming, and one of your panelists from the industry side said it's going to take time, and that's so true. Things take time to flow through. But as a part of the CHIPS Act, the MEP program was given an additional $1.5 billion over the next 5 years. So that money won't be prorated equally. It'll be based on the number of manufacturers in the state. And the good news is California has the most manufacturers in the country. And so it'll at least be $6 million a year additional in monies. And we're hoping the structure will be non-matching, which means clients won't have to put money in. We're excited about that. So as we find out more about that, I'll be putting it in our blog and how to access the money for the programs that we have. So
great.
Yep.
Thanks, Gene. We're kind of getting upon that hour where we need to be kind of wrapping up. My motto is start on time, end on time. Any great words of wisdom that briefly any of you want to share for manufacturers in the state of California?
Yeah, I'll jump in. I want to emphasize the idea of apprenticeship, and all apprenticeship is really that you are kind of training your employees to move up into your kind of higher skilled jobs. So if you have workers that are maybe at an entry level and you have positions that are higher skilled trades, look at apprenticeship where they would you kind of mentor them, you rotate them through different skills of that job, but then you take community college classes to upgrade them to move in it, because they know you, they know the company, you know them, what kind of worker they are, and then help your employees themselves move up, and then you kind of backfill those jobs. But if you have any questions about apprenticeship, you can reach out to me and I can talk with you more about it.
Thanks, Mark. We actually met with a recent employer who they were having a hard time training or hiring people. So they hired really for attitude and aptitude. And they took somebody who was a grocery clerk at Trader Joe's, brought them in at an entry-level position, and have just literally been training him up because they're training him the way they want him to work. But he had the aptitude and the attitude, and he was showing up, right? So he was interested in a career change. And I think that's the opportunity that many manufacturers potentially have, along with that apprenticeship program. Gene, any closing comments?
I think your point is great, and we see it more and more. That's exactly how you have to do it. You have to bring people in and give them the skills. We fell into a trap for 20 years of constantly looking for exactly the right person from the same industry with the same skill set, and that's how we hired. And it was an easy way to do it, and you can't do that anymore. You got to bring people in and train them like it's the 40s and the 50s back in the day. And Poonam, I wasn't around then. I was in a diaper.
I'm not going to say anything anymore.
Okay.
No, I just would leave with, as a manufacturer in the state of California, please do not think that you are alone. I think the perception is often that you can't approach government or that we're too hard to navigate. That is exactly why our office was set up, to help be that navigator, to help get you to the right people, to help support you be successful here in California. We care about that. We know we cannot do this without you. You are the reason why we are an innovation leader in the nation and in the world, really. And partners like Jean and Mark and other organizations that we work with that are kind of, working with us on the state end and providing direct support to you, they're extremely helpful, and we work with them every day. So really, I'm fortunate to be a part of this conversation. Jean's absolutely right. We can do as many webinars as we can, but we really want to make sure that everyone knows about us. And we're in that direction in trying to get people more aware about these programs, but you can always call us. And we will always have the time to navigate you and get you to the right place.
Thank you, Poonam. I will speak and attest to the fact that the folks at GoBiz are very friendly and receptive to questions and inquiries and getting on the phone and answer questions. Jean, Poonam, Mark, thank you very much for being on today's panel. Also want to thank Bob, Eric, Dave, and Mike from panel 1. Appreciate their time. This webinar is recorded. We'll have it posted on the Choose Morgan Hill website within a week. We'll encourage you to share it. We'll talk about it. I think we've covered a lot of topics today, and we want to celebrate manufacturers as an industry, as an employer in the state of California and the city of Morgan Hill. Thank you for being with us, and I hope everybody goes out and has a prosperous day. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye.